Hi, I'm Brenda Mahoney. I'm the librarian at Algonquin College at the Ottawa campus. Today, I'm going to spend some time with you and discuss avoiding plagiarism and the concept of academic integrity at Algonquin College. Big topics. Okay, so the college has a policy of academic integrity. The academic integrity policy is policy AA48, if you're interested. You can view the policies at algonquincollege.com/policies. Okay. The college defines academic integrity as upholding the values of Algonquin College with respect to your academic work. Okay. This would include avoiding academic misconduct, which includes cheating and plagiarism, which we'll explore just in a few minutes. Having academic integrity means you uphold the fundamental values of academic integrity, which include honesty, trust, fairness, respect, responsibility, and courage, and demonstrate a commitment to these values and standards in all academic activities. So you would be demonstrating academic integrity if you quickly put away your electronic devices when asked to during a class, when you are respectful of due dates and class start times. Okay, so academic misconduct is what's covered inside the academic integrity policy. So academic misconduct would include some of these following items: helping others commit an academic misconduct, actions that would give you an unfair advantage in test situations that would be considered cheating, contract cheating, that is when you pay someone to take a test for you or you buy a paper from someone else, falsifying information with the goal of deception, okay, pretending something was written by you, reusing work previously submitted, that would be considered self-plagiarism. So that would be material that you wrote for another course that you hand in for this course, okay? And then finally, plagiarism. So these are all academic misconducts, right? Here is the very large, very long, kind of scary definition of plagiarism inside the academic integrity policy at Algonquin. Okay, so here is their basic definition. Plagiarism can be done deliberately or accidentally and is defined as presenting someone else's work in whole or in part as your own. Okay, so basically when you write something or perform something or present something, if you use an external source, you should let the reader or the person viewing the presentation know in some way that that was not your idea. Okay, if you do not let them know in some way, they can assume it was your idea. Okay, and once people assume that something is your idea and give you credit for it, that is plagiarism. Okay. The other part here that's very interesting is that Algonquin considers plagiarism deliberate or accidental. Okay, and both are equally serious at the college. Okay, so you can commit plagiarism by intending to fool somebody and let them think that all this content of a paper is yours when you used external sources, or you can accidentally commit plagiarism. That would mean that you did not know how to communicate to the reader that the material you're using was from another source, and therefore they assumed the material is your own idea. Okay. So a lot of the parts about dealing with plagiarism at the college is more likely a student has committed accidental plagiarism than on purpose plagiarism, okay? But both are plagiarism, right? So they're both taken very seriously. We talk about plagiarism a lot as having to do with words. That's because we spent so much time talking about plagiarism in communication class. But plagiarism can be almost anything, can be plagiarized. Okay, so it could be wording, it could be code, it could be graphics, it could be music, it could be lyrics, government publications, photography, anything can be plagiarized. Again, it's when you use something and you let the person who is consuming what you produce think that it is your own work. Okay. Sharing one's work with other learners where this has not been authorized is also considered plagiarism. Okay, so if you give a paper to somebody else and your intention was that they were going to read that paper and learn how the teacher marked, but instead they passed it in, then that's plagiarism. And you've committed plagiarism by sharing that work that they've used. to commit plagiarism as well. Okay, reusing one else's words, ideas, artistic expression, or work from pre-existing materials is self-plagiarism. Okay, you can sometimes reuse old work with permission from your professor. The other thing about reusing old work is that, for example, think about a paper that you wrote last year. Okay, you may have gotten a really good mark on that paper, right? This year, you're back for your second year of study. The teachers are expecting more of you. So that paper that you wrote last year is not going to cut it this year. Okay, if you don't get caught for self-plagiarism, you're going to get a very bad mark because you've learned so much, or the teacher's expecting that you've learned so much since last year that the paper should be better. Okay, so be careful about these things. All right, consequences of academic misconduct. So that's committing anything that's considered academic misconduct at Algonquin, and that includes plagiarism. Okay, the filing of a formal violation, okay, in the college. Supplemental assessments, you're asked to do extra work, perhaps to learn why you accidentally committed plagiarism. A grade reduction, a grade of 0 on assessment. Okay, so I do know some faculty members that have a 0 tolerance for any form of plagiarism, accidental or on purpose, while you're learning. Okay, grade of F on the course, so you failed the course, suspension from the college, or suspension from the program. Okay, so it is taken very seriously at Algonquin College, because if you commit plagiarism, you've committed academic misconduct, and that means you do not have, or you're not showing, academic integrity. Okay, some examples of plagiarism, just to give you a better idea of what acts could be considered plagiarism. Okay, so you read a couple of different sources, you cut and paste little bits from each one, and you put them all together to make a paper, and you pass that in, and you don't cite your sources. Okay, that's the worst paper ever to read as a professor, because it sounds like 7 different people wrote a paper. You could copy from a source, change in 1 or 2 words, and not cite it. Okay, you can work together on an individual assignment in a group where you're all individually marked, and therefore it gets to be a little confusing as which work is which person's. And when the teacher's correcting a paper that's individually marked and you all work together on it, they'll all start looking the same. Okay, making up references for your reference list, that's also called padding. That's when you can't remember where you got the content, so you make something up. Using a video image found online without crediting the source. Turning in work that you did for another class without permission. Buying a paper and turning it in as your own work. Copying from external sources. That could be like you're doing an art and you trace it, or you copy a computer code that someone else has done. Okay. So those are different kinds of plagiarism. All right. Plagiarism can happen anywhere. We talk a lot again about it happening at the college. Under copyright law, you are covered by extensions under the copyright law. So as long as you cite content within your papers and projects at the college, you are okay. When you're in the work world, there's an additional thing that is related to plagiarism called copyright infringement. Okay, for copyright items, citing is not enough in the work world. Sometimes you have to use images, to use graphics, use content in the work world. You may have to seek permission from the person who created it, and you might even have to pay a license fee to use that content. Okay, so what might be plagiarism at the college could be copyright infringement in the workplace. And yes, you can commit regular plagiarism in the workplace, but also copyright infringement. What is the difference? Plagiarism is seen as a moral wrong. Okay, it's something you should not do. It is not respectful. It is cheating. Okay, copyright infringement is a legal wrong. There are laws against it. And that would mean that there could be a case of a time. If you commit copyright infringement, this could mean that there is a legal wrong. You could get a letter saying, take down the content, change the content, or else we will sue. Okay. So plagiarism and copyright infringement are related. I would suggest you look up a little bit more on our website about copyright infringement. Okay, consequences of plagiarism and copyright infringement in the workplace, where we all want to be. Okay, damage to professional reputation. Okay, if you commit plagiarism or copyright, you've been seen as taking a shortcut. You didn't do the work yourself, you passed in someone else's, or you used a piece of someone else's. Okay, it can be a public relations crisis for your business. Okay, excessive lawsuits against your business or the individual. Past works could be called into question and investigated. So you plagiarize this one time. People will start wondering, did you do it before? Okay, right? So they'll go back and look at all your work and pick it apart. It could have an impact on past earnings and future employment. If you work in certain fields, who's going to want someone who is known to plagiarize or who has been in a case that's been in the news where they committed copyright infringement? Right? I've included some cases of people who've committed plagiarism or copyright infringement in the news. If you want to go look them up just to find out what has happened, and they're all very different, very special cases. Katy Perry spent 2 years, well, not her personally, her lawyers, 2 years in court trying to win a case that a singer claimed that she copied the beat of music in his song. So this was the rock singer Flame said that her song Dark Horse plagiarized the beat of the music in his song. Okay, this went through 2 levels of court. In one case, they actually said Katy Perry had to pay Flame $2.8 million and make him a co-writer on her song Dark Horse. She appealed to a higher court, and she was lucky. They brought in musicologists, and the musicologists said if we get to the point where we're governing the beat of music at the level that this court case was, there will be no more music. So luckily, she was able to win a reversal and was not accused of plagiarism and did not have to pay the fines. Okay. Then we have MasterChef. A chef on MasterChef, she did quite well. She's doing great with her career. And because of the fame that came with being on MasterChef, she got a book offer in England. So she published her book. And right after she published her book, there were claims of plagiarism. Okay. And this is where I learned something interesting. You can't actually copyright a recipe because it's simply a list of ingredients, but it was the stories behind the recipes and the instructions on how she explained to put together the recipes that were plagiarized. And actually was quite a few different recipe books, websites, and blogs that were plagiarized. So her publisher had to pull back the book. And that may affect her career going forward. She could be seen as a dishonest person. Okay. Then we have the University of U of C in the United States, University of Carolina. He gave a speech. The speech was bad enough. He messed up what university he was working for in the speech. He said University of California. Pretty bad when a president doesn't know what university he works for. But he also plagiarized quite a lot of his speech from another speech he found online. How did he get caught? Well, the students thought that was not a bad speech. I'd like to find out if it's online. So they remembered a line or two from the speech. They copied it into Google. They searched for it. And lo and behold, the speech was online, but it was not from the president. It was from another person in the, I believe, Special Operations Command that had written that speech. So in this case, the president's choice was to wait to be fired or to resign, because you cannot have a president of a university, an educational institution, committing plagiarism and then tell the students, no, you cannot commit plagiarism. Okay, so there's lots of very interesting cases out there to look at that are not all about the classroom. All right, so the basics I'm saying here is to not plagiarize, you need to show the reader when information is not your own and tell them where it came from. That's the #1 way to avoid plagiarism. So think of plagiarism as stealing. Okay, the one time that you don't have to show a reader where information comes from is if it's considered common knowledge. Okay, common knowledge is information that is considered widely known or most people would know. Sounds easy. Unfortunately, common knowledge can differ by culture or field. So there's certain things within a field, maybe to another person in the field, you wouldn't have to say where that information came from because you both would know. But if you're talking to someone outside the field, you would have to cite it. Same with cultural knowledge, that might differ, okay? So here's an example. It snows often in Ottawa in winter. Would I have to cite that? No, because in general, I think most people would know it does snow in Ottawa in winter. How about this one? The average amount of snowfall in Ottawa is 223.5 centimeters per year, right? That's a fact. That's a very specific fact. I need to tell the reader where I got that fact, okay? Not only to support what I'm saying and say this is true, I did find it somewhere reputable, but also to say that it is a fact and you can check it for yourself, okay? A lot of times we cite something to support an argument we're making or to let the reader find that information for themselves to learn further. Okay, so here are my 4 steps of how you can avoid plagiarism. Okay, always be aware if there's a policy. Being aware of the policy doesn't forgive you if you do commit plagiarism, but at least then you know what is at stake. Also, depending on the field you're in, many fields might have a licensing body or an oversight body that will give you your licensing or permit you to work in the field. And they might have a policy for that profession that would say that there are things that will happen to you if you commit plagiarism in your profession. So it's a good idea to know these things and know these policies. Okay, know when to work alone. There's 2 cases of this. One we already mentioned. If it's an individual assignment, you can work with your friends, but make sure the final product is your own. Okay. If it's a group assignment and you're all working together, everyone in the group assignment is responsible for citing and letting the reader know where the content came from. It's not the responsibility of the one person that's writing the assignment. You are all responsible. Okay. Start fresh. Don't self-plagiarize. Reuse content that's old, you'll get a poor mark, and it's also plagiarism. Finally, the #1 way to avoid plagiarism is to know what citation format you should use and to use it. Okay, the idea of a citation format is it gives you the rules to follow as an author. So if you document each source according to the rules, you do not fall into accidental plagiarism. Okay. Just to give you some information on how citation works, okay, there are 3 steps to citation, and I believe you're going to use American Psychological Association style, APA style, so these steps fit for that as well, okay? So the first step is use a source, okay? So you're using a source in a paper that you're writing, so use the source. Using the source, you either quote it, which means you take the material exactly as it was, don't change it, put it in your paper. Most people know what a quote is, okay? Or you paraphrase it. Paraphrasing is when you take something and you use it in your own words. You explain what it means, okay? So you use a source in your paper. Next to using the spot in your paper where you use a source, you put a little note. That's called an in-text citation, okay? An in-text citation represents the reference, okay? The idea is that in the body of the paper, you don't want to put a full reference. A full reference is all the information to find that source again. That could be 4 and 5 lines long. And if we put a reference right next to a quote or paraphrase in your paper, you are ruining the experience for the reader. So the idea is that an in-text citation is author date. So you take author and date information from your full reference as a short note to put next to your paraphrase or quote in the body of your paper, okay? And finally, step 3 is your full list of references or works cited that in the paper. So this is the full list of all sources that you used in the paper that the reader can refer to. That's why it's called a reference. Okay, last thing. How to avoid plagiarism quick tips, okay? Plan ahead, start early. Research will always take longer than you think. And you want to give yourself that little bit of extra time at the end to give yourself a break. So finish your paper, give yourself an evening, a night, a couple of hours to push that paper aside and get away from it. So you can come back and give it a thorough proofreading. Okay. When you proofread after a break, you will notice grammar, spelling, and citation mistakes that if you're too close to it, you won't notice. Okay. Keep track of sources during the research process. If you find an article online, you think you're going to use it, capture the link for that so you can get back and find that source information. If you're using the library databases, the reference information should be with the article, so you can grab that. Too many people get to the point where they're writing the paper and they have a great quote or a great image and they can't use it because they can't remember where they found it. Therefore, they can't reference and cite it. Okay, so you want to avoid that. Know which citation style to use. I'm almost sure you're using APA. Citation styles are decided by your profession. So we have many different profession areas at Algonquin College, and there are many different citation styles. APA is the most used, and I think it's yours, okay? Have a citation source you trust where you can go and check the rules, okay? I don't recommend anyone memorize APA citation rules. That will be too much, but have a book, a handout, a website that is up to date and lists the rules so you can go and check them every time you cite a different source. Some of the sources that we have online would be on the library's website, and I'll show these to you in a moment. Okay, you can use cite generators. They're not evil, but just remember anything that generates or gives you a citation or a reference may not be perfect. You still might have to do additional checking, but they can certainly be used. Okay, if you're not sure if something's common knowledge or you're ever questioning yourself, cite it anyway. Better to have it cited than not cited at all. All right, so I'm going to take you to the library website for a second, so I can show you where the library citation guide is. So I'm going to stop share, and we're going to go to the guide. Oops. This is never my best part. I'm trying to get out of it and go to the guide. Stop share. There we go. Yay, it's working. Okay, so I'm on the library website. And actually, I'm going to show you how I got here. So the website is algonquincollege.com, algonquincollege.librarylibguides.com/research/citing. So I'm going to show you how I got here. This is much easier to remember. Okay, so I'm on the library website, algonquincollege.com/library. Here is our one search tool. This is searching all the content that we have available to you that the library pays for you to use. You would use your library account to access the content in this search. Your library account is your student number as a login, and your PIN is the last 4 numbers of your student number. This is content that is not available on the internet or not available for free on the internet. And if you know you're looking for articles, I can definitely recommend that the one search is a good place for you. But in addition, all the tools will give you a reference with the content that you do find. Right, so I'm just going to come down here. So I'm going to go to our research box on our webpage. Research box here gives you a mini research guide. So this is how to write a paper from defining your topic, planning your search for resources, creating an outline, write your paper, and cite sources, avoid plagiarism. Okay, so we can explore all these pieces, but there is a guide here for supporting you in citing sources. There's also an avoiding plagiarism guide in case you want to learn more. So I'm going to go into the cite sources guide. And here you can see all the information about citation. So the places that I recommend maybe is the APA modules. The APA modules, there's 5 modules in all. That's a mini course in how to use APA citation. Okay, this is a course you can take on your own time. They're short, they're silly, but they teach you the basics. Okay, over here we have the guides. So APA guide, 7th edition style manual. This is the guide I use when I need to check materials. It's written by Algonquin faculty for Algonquin students, and it's updated each year. This is the guide I probably use the most. You can download it to your desktop, or you can bookmark this whole page for your own use. What I like especially about this guide, I'm just going to open it. It does give you a little lesson on the 3 steps of citing. So if there's any part of that from paraphrasing and quoting that you have questions, it certainly will give you the answers. But what I particularly like is page 11. Okay, page 11 is a great way to do referencing. So every time your source type changes, the rules of APA change, because to find a different resource, there's different requirements. So you need different information to find a book, then you would need to find a video online. Okay, so you can think, what kind of source are you citing? Okay, I'm going to cite a blog. So you can click blog, and it gives you the rules for the referencing of a blog in your paper, what the reference would look like on your reference sheet, and then explains to you what your in-text citation would look like. This is the information you would put with every quote or paraphrase from the source in the body of your paper. In-text citation comes from your reference. It would be the author and the date. Okay, so I really like that this material is searchable and lookupable in this guide. Further information on this page would include citation tools that are online. These would include the citation generators I mentioned, and some other tools that will help you check your papers. Okay, so that is the information we have there to sort of give you some supports. If you have a question, you can certainly reach out to the library. We have Library Live Chat. Library Live Chat runs from 8 o'clock a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday to Thursday, and 8 to 5 on Fridays. There are real people there. There's usually 2 staff people there waiting to chat with you. We cannot check your citations or references for you, but we can tell you that and recommend these resources for you to check, or we can say that maybe you need to look at the rules for authors or the rules for dates, or something's funny with your title. Maybe you need to check that rule. So you can do that. We also do offer workshops in APA, so they are available. Just going to come back and let you know about the workshops if you want to learn further information. So on the library website, algonquincollege.com/library, you can view the workshops that are offered. All our workshops are being offered right now through Zoom. So you can find out what we're offering. I'll be probably offering APA closer to the end of January. Okay, and there's lots of other great workshops for study skills using Brightspace that are being offered. Okay, well, thanks for listening to me. Good luck with your assignment and stay healthy this term. I wish you all the best luck.